Hey everyone, this is just Mongol. Today I'm going over my Sunworld deck profile. I recently just went to a locals a little bit ago. Uh, I about a week ago, I think. It was pretty fun and all that. I went after I went to my trip to Wisconsin, so I have my new deck box, my new dice, and my brand new mat. I don't play Magic. This is a really cool mat though. But let's just get right into the deck. This was a really fun deck to make. It's a pretty easy deck as well. It's not that expensive, especially because there's a lot of reprints in new Megatins, which make a lot more expensive cards. For instance, Vampire Sucker was originally around $18. Now it's like a $5 card about. So it's really easy to get a hold of this stuff. Anyway, we run double Gloat Bloom right off the bat. Gloat Bloom is your level 1 tuner, and basically when it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish it and special summon a Doom King straight from your deck if zombie rolls on the field. But you're locked into the zombies for the rest of the turn. It does kind of suck, but he's a really easy way to get your Doom Kings at pretty easily. I run one Spectral Sword. Spectral Sword really isn't that good, to be honest. That's why you just play the one. Basically, she's level 2 tuner, and when she's in the graveyard, except for the turn she's sent there, you can synchro summon her and the monster in the graveyard, banish them both. I almost always make Coral Dragon with them because I just get like a level 4 in her. Um, she's pretty decent. I run one Tsuchinoko. I would like to run two, but I just have the one, so it works fine. Two Tatsunekros. He's level 3 tuner that when he's normal summons, you can use him and a zombie from your hand to synchro summon, but you're only allowed to synchro summon into zombie synchros. But you get to banish both materials. He's good if you don't have like a Unizombie or Solitaire, literally anything. But you have him in like a level 4 in your hand, like a Mizuki. And that's the only play you can make. It's a fine play, I guess. Next up, we play Triple Unizombie. Unizombie's level 3 tuner. You can raise his level by 1 and send a card from your hand to the graveyard. You can also raise his level by 1 you can target any card. Whenever you raise a level, you can target himself or any other monster in the field that can have its level raised, except for Xyz and Lynx. And you can send any zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard. Really good play starter. He's really good. Just a triple. He's really good. Next up is Triple Mothman. Mothman's basically the draw power in this deck. This is actually a really fun card. A lot of people don't really like give Mothman enough credit because he's not really like one of the more broken ones, like Tsuchinoko, Jackalope, and Nessie. But he is really good in this deck just for the draw power and the fact you can discard him off of Uni. You can also sit there and use his effect to summon himself because he is 1800 body. It's pretty decent. Next up is Triple Mizuki. Mizuki, you can banish him from your graveyard and special summon a zombie from your graveyard. And it's not a once per turn. It's really good, really strong. Um, yeah. Next up is Triple Solitaire. Solitaire basically, you can tribute any zombie that you control and then special summon a zombie tuner from your deck with 0 defense. So your options are Skill Saga, I'm sorry, Spectral Sword, Gloat Bloom, and Unizombie. You almost always want to get Unizombie. Just another way to get your play starters out. Keep in mind this does die with Ash, so if your opponent ashes that, you don't have a play for the turn, so. Next up is Double Banshee. Banshee, you can banish her from the field or graveyard and activate a zombie roll straight from your deck. And when she's on the field, zombie roll cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects. I don't really use her on field presence that much, but it's fine. Next up is just one Frolin. The damage is good, that's why I just want to run the one. There's a lot of times where I was just sitting there just using her. She's pretty good. But she's just fine at 1. I run one World Crown. I just mostly use this for negation. I side this out often because if you draw it first turn, it's dead hands basically. Next up is two Doom King. Doom King, he can special summon himself during the standby phase when any player's turn when a face-up field spell is on the field. Also, once per chain, when a zombie activates an effect, he can sit there and negate it, and he can also banish one card on the field or graveyard. He's pretty strong. He has great stats and all that. Oh, pretty decent stats. Great revival and all that. And he works really well with Vampire Sucker. For hand traps, I run 2 Ogre and 3 Ash. And that's the monster lineup. For the spells, we run Terra, 2 Allure, 1 Foolish, Twin Twister, 2 copies of Super Poly, Zombie Power Struggle, and Triple Zombie World. I get asked often why I don't run just 3 Lore. I don't know why people ask, because I do run a lot of dark monsters, but there are like other monsters which aren't dark, like the Ash, the Ogre, the Solitaire, the Mizuki, and the Spectral Sword. So sometimes we'll have like a whole handful of like just like dark monsters basically. And I'll draw and I won't get any dark monsters. That happened like one game. But I feel like 2 is fine because this deck does do some pretty good draw power, so I feel 2 is fine. I just run 2 Super Poly. I don't have a third, but like personally, I just like 2. Zombie Power Struggle can target a zombie in the field, raise its attack by 1,000 or lower it by 1,000. And you can also, during your main phase, if it's in the graveyard, you can target the banished zombie monster. You can and return to the deck and set it face down and banish it when it leaves the field. It's pretty decent. And everything else is pretty much self-explanatory. For the extra deck, I just run for the fusion for the Super Poly Starring Venom. I'm thinking about putting in a Predaplant Draco Stalia, just because Thunder Dragons are getting more and more powerful and all that. Well, Thunder Dragons are pretty big right now, so thinking about playing one of those. We also run Coral Dragon, 2 Red Eye Zombie Necros, and 1 Bazil. I don't really like Bazil that much because like Unicorn's a thing and Cerberus, so like it really doesn't do that much. Red Eyes is pretty good though. Whenever it's level 7 and it gains 100 attack defense for every zombie in the field and graveyards for both players, and when another zombie monster is destroyed by a battle, you can special summon 1 zombie from either graveyard to your side of the field. So it's pretty good. Pretty easy to make as well. I just run 1 XZ, just Time Thief. I don't really go into him that much though. We run Link Karibo, Nightmare Cerberus, Akashic, Vampire Sucker, Nightmare Unicorn, Transcode Talker, Boroload, Boral Sword, and Zero Boros. I'm gonna be completely honest. I never really used Transcode Talker that much. In fact, I really only played it with Link Karibo, because that's the only other Cyberse I can really make. And it was for very niche circumstances, and I kind of just forgot to take him out the deck. So I never really used him. I think I used him 1 game. To be honest with you, run 2 Sucker at least. 3 is a little bit too much, 2 is just perfectly fine. Because whenever a zombie special summons from the graveyard to the field, you get to draw a card. It works great with Doom King. I don't run a Nightmare Phoenix because I don't have it, but like if I did, I would replace the Transcode Talker with that. You can also run a Nether Soul Dragon. I just don't have that. It just takes 2 zombies. Side deck. I run Ghost Bella, Sphere Mode, Triple Nibiru, Twin Twisters, 2 copies of Shared Ride, Power Struggle, 2 Evenly, Pure Order, and Triple Red Reboot. For the most part, I decided Sphere Mode a lot. I didn't really go into Nibiru. I only used Nibiru whenever I was going against like some FTKs and all that summoned a whole bunch. I went into Imperial Order often along with evenly matched. They were my biggest like switcheroos. Um, Pretty decent. Surprisingly, like no one really played that many traps, so I didn't really have to decide on Red Reboot. So anyway, that's the deck. Now to on the combos. A combo I like to do, it's just a really simple one, is you can just sit there and let's say you have a solitaire in your hand. You can summon the solitaire, tribute off, and summon your Unizami from your deck. Or if you have Unizami in your hand, you can just dry summon it. Doesn't really matter. But you do that, then use the effects in your hand to either get rid of a Banshee or a Bloom if you have them. Either one doesn't really matter. But you do gotta get your Banshee first. So you get your Banshee, Banshee's banished, you get your world up, and then you can activate the effect to get rid of Bloom. Bloom banishes itself. You get a copy of Doom King. You get tribute both off, and then you get a sucker out. And then during your next turn, you can sit there and special summon your Doom King back, and then you get to draw a card. It's the most common interaction because not only that do you have like this draw thing, you also have a pretty good negation and all that, which can banish some pretty good combo cards, like a Saryuya or something pretty big, or a Borload. It's pretty decent. This is pretty much for the most part like the most common combo that there is. It's decent. It's not the greatest because it can die to hand traps pretty easily. But it's not a bad combo. It's probably like one of the simplest combos ever, but a lot of decks have trouble getting over it. A lot of the rogue decks like Altergeist and some other stuff like that, especially whenever they use Village of the Spellcasters. If they happen to go first and then you go second, you can just sit there and get Unizombi out, and they just literally can't do anything if you have Zombie on the field because they can't activate spells because they don't control any spellcasters. It's pretty broken against Altergeist because they just want to go first and put their hidden village of spellcasters up as quickly as possible. Some other decks that have trouble with this. I've seen a decent amount of Paleo Frog. It does decent against Paleo Frog. That was something I was really worried about because just Paleo Frog's kind of just... Paleo Frog's pretty good. Pretty underrated. Endymion, this deck did okay against Endymion. I went against 3 Endymion decks. Well, 1 like pure Endymion deck, and then 2 of the Guard Dragon combo. Whenever you go first, it's pretty much fine because they can't really do anything. They can't sit there and they can't I'm trying to think of the word. They have trouble getting over it because their monsters aren't dragons, so they can't do the Guard Dragon combo. So they have to sit there and put resources into getting Endymion out to banish the zombie world and all that. Thunder Dragons, as long as you just sit there and tribute their things using Starving Venom, it works perfectly fine. Again, I would like to run Draco Stalio, which I might actually do that later. But this is just the deck list I played during locals. Trying to think if there's any other things. Orcus was pretty good to get over. It was pretty easy. I didn't really have a hard time with Orcust. Soundman Great was really easy to get over. They don't really do that much anymore because they don't have triple Gazelle and triple Circle, so... this deck does pretty decent. It's not the best deck. It does die to an Ash, like, first turn, often, but if you can get over the Ash, or your opponent just doesn't have an Ash, this deck works great. Has great revival and all that. The version I'm playing has pretty good draw power and all that. It's pretty consistent. I don't really brick that often with it. However, I had had some games where I did brick where I just didn't have anything, so I just had a Link Creeville in the field and like a uh, zombie on the field, and that was just my turn. I've had games like that, but they're few and far between. This deck is pretty consistent, pretty good, it's pretty fun. It's pretty cheap to play as well because a lot of cards got reprints in the Megatins. And this is structure deck. For the most part, you get most of your cards from the structure deck. It's a pretty fun deck. I recommend playing it. Anyway, thanks for watching, and yeet.